So, for my historic Revolutionary War site, I visited Washington's Crossing Historic Park, which is on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. At this spot, George Washington and his troops crossed the river to get to Trenton for the Battle of Trenton. They crossed the river on the night of Christmas in 1776. Washington and his 2,400 soldiers crossed where the park is now, but he was supposed to have another 3,000 soldiers for reinforcements. The German mercenaries were waiting out the harsh winter in Trenton, and it was because of these harsh conditions that the reinforcements never were able to cross the river. Even though Washington didn't have these reinforcements, he was able to defeat the British mercenaries. The victory was important because it caused soldiers to re-enlist and generally boosted American morale. For the official site and links to more detailed information, wait until the end of the video. After visiting the official website and gaining all the information I needed, I set out on the trip. The first place I visited at the site was called the Thompson Neely House. This was where important people from the battle had stayed before it had happened. I did not take a tour of the house, but it fascinates me to know that people from the battle had actually stayed there. The next place I visited was the Unknown Soldiers' Graveyard. We had to take a path to get there, but in the end it was worth it, because before visiting the site, I had wondered if anyone had died in the crossing of the river. However, I found out that none died during the crossing of the river, but many died from sickness. These soldiers were the ones who were buried in the graveyard. I was surprised that more died from sickness than in the actual battle. I like how the park incorporated nature with the historic site. This place had a sense of solitude, and it made it feel as if I could have been there that night. There were two sections to the park, and what I have shown is only the first part. The other part, further down the road, was more commercialized, which I didn't really enjoy. It disappoints me to know that the historic sites are starting to be exploited just for profit. On the way to the next section, I crossed the river. I find it interesting that it was a big deal to cross the river back then, but now it only took a minute. At this site, I found another answer to something I had been wondering about. I found that Washington had come back to the place he had crossed before because he was afraid of being attacked by the other English soldiers in New Jersey. Also, I figured out how Washington had acquired so many boats for all his troops to cross the river. He had sent a letter to the governor of New Jersey at the time to ask him to round up all the boats he needed. The boats were then procured from the towns that were situated around Washington. The site had many examples of the ships that were used to cross the river that night. I found it interesting that the ships used were actually meant for cargo and weren't really supposed to be used for people. Overall, I found the trip rather enjoyable and would recommend it to those who have the time to go. The environment is inviting and one could enjoy it even if they had no interest in the Revolutionary War at all. For those who do, though, there is a 1-hour tour around the site for them to go on.